Y'all trying to work my nerves today, huh?
No, it's a busy day. It's in the middle of the day, and you're doing the best you can, which ain't good enough, obviously, today.
Yeah, well.
I got my friend this morning, which was really important for me to do,
And
stop by her house and take her some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we only have 1 week left, so.
I'm enjoying it, every minute of it.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
It's a good book.
Yes.
Yeah, so how you doing, Dean?
Oh, just trying to make it.
Yeah.
Just trying to make it. Just had Dino's friends over. Just had Dino's new friend from school over. So, we're just trying to get him used to new people still, He just came in from his parents are from Germany and Spain. So he's just coming over here, trying to get used to a new environment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, well, y'all, huh?
No.
We're all set to go? Start?
Yeah, you ready?
I'm ready when you're ready.
Okay. Camera's on you, Venita.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Venita Walker, and welcome to Series 1 of the Revolutionary Love series. Today I'm joined by Odom and Din, and I'll be your moderator for today. My name is Venita Walker. We're reading our selection. The selection today is by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and you're the ones we're waiting for. I'm sorry, I'm having a little technical problems right now, as always. Let's see. We'll need a timekeeper. We have a limit of 3 minutes per question or per comment. And if we need more time, please let the timekeeper know, whomever that may be today. Can I have a volunteer, Dean?
Yeah, I'll be.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Great.
I'm just moving to a more quiet area.
Okay, perfect. So, will you volunteer for timekeeper today?
Yeah, I'll be.
He said yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll do it.
All right. So we'll start off by having. I'll let Michelle take it from here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Odom. I am participating from Brooklyn, New York, and you can learn more about the Revolutionary Love Leadership Series on Google+, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome.
And I'm Din Goldson, participating from Berstadt, Germany, and it's good to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I don't think I said where I was from. Again, my name is Venita Walker. I'll be your moderator for today, and I am joining everyone from Cromwell, Connecticut, where it's nice and cold here. We have no more foliage left, so it looks a little desolate outside, but it's still beautiful.
That's good.
Okay,
Good.
So why don't we get started? Dean, would you like to read the summary?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And could I just ask, can we save a few minutes for the love note, about 5 minutes at the end of the meeting?
Perfect.
Anita?
Yes, sure.
All right. In the second half of Chapter 2, Coates shares with his son the history of segregation in the urban area of North Chicago, carefully engineered government policy that was designed to disenfranchise black families, and the rich history of the black folk that live there. He continues his conversation concerning the plunder of black lives and the generational effect it has had on blacks. Should I read the key point?
Why don't you, Dean?
All right. Coates recalls an incident while covering a story in Chicago about the history of segregation in urban North and how it was engineered by government policy. One day he followed some officers of the county sheriff as they made their rounds. He witnessed a black man and his family losing their home to the bank. The man of the house watched, yelled, and cursed as his belongings were set on the curb. His manner was like all the powerless black people I'd ever known, exaggerating their bodies to conceal a fundamental plunder that they could not prevent. Hey, what do you think was going through the man's mind as he stood there in front of his wife and children, watching their lives change in an instant? You want a shot, Mom?
Hmm. I think he was feeling like a failure as a provider.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he was feeling like this, that he couldn't control the situation, that he couldn't protect his family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he was ashamed, and that's why he didn't um, tell his wife, that this was in the works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think he was feeling, oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
The black man.
Right.
What do you think?
I pretty much feel the same way. I mean, if a system is designed for you to fail, it's kind of easy for you to say that, but it doesn't really carry the same weight. It still makes you feel like you failed. It's designed to have no face of a man. It's designed to be like a myth.
Hmm.
When somebody says that they're out to get you, you know how you always say in the working class black man say he can't get ahead?
Right.
It's designed to be a myth so that no one white person can be the target of the blame. But the system is set up against us. It's set up for our shame and for our misery. So we become disenfranchised as a people and then blame ourselves for a system that has much more to do with it than our capabilities as people.
Right.
You know? Yeah, there are some people who fail because they fail to plan, and there are some people who get destroyed by a system that's set up to hurt you.
Right.
You
Right.
know? I mean, it's twofold. I mean, you never know which one it is. But if you're really out there grinding and working, and you notice that there's just no way for you to get ahead, maybe it's just the system. You know, a man can only work so hard, and it's kind of hard to explain people, even if you've been working hard, that the system is grinding you down because people can't see that.
Right.
And when you can't see it, and you can't point at a person to put the blame on, it kind of makes it look like you're making excuses.
Right.
You know, and then you know,
Yeah. One of the items that I posted today
mhm,
is a video of Ta-Nehisi Coates being interviewed, and one of the questions that the interview asked him is, early in the book where he makes the comment that it's violence against black bodies is heritage, is tradition
yes,
in America.
hmm
So the interview asked him what I've now heard several interviewers ask him, why do you say that? What do you mean by that?
right,
And it's just always incredible to me that Americans you wonder if they can truly be as blind as as they pretend to be.
Well,
But
when it's not your regular reality, then
yeah,
you tend not to think about it the same way than somebody whose reality it is on a regular basis.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, we, white privilege is so concealed that they don't even recognize that they have white privilege.
right,
They don't even recognize it. You know,
right.
they don't even know what white privilege is because they've never had to think about it.
The dream.
The dream.
Hmm.
Right. What you got, Juanita?
I believe that I agree with Michelle and with you on his thoughts, but I also believe that he, in his mind, he was saying to himself, I have no control where I'm employed on my job.
Mm-hmm.
I have no control when I walk out in the street every day. I have no control on whether I'll be able to I have a job the next
Mm-hmm.
day. But the least I could do is have control over whether I feed my family.
Right.
Whether I have a roof for my family's, the roof of my family's head. Whether my wife and my children have what they need. I can come home, even if I've had to face all these things every day, at least I should be able to come home, close my door, sit down, have a
Right.
nice meal, love my wife, love my
Mm-hmm.
children. That's the least I should be able to do. That should be my God given right.
Right.
And I think that's what was going through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't believe he was trying to hide it from his wife intentionally. I think the man was just so done.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just so done, and
Right.
look at your wife. You come home here every day, you look at your wife, you look at your children, and you don't know which way you're going to turn. You know,
Right.
uh, the job done laid you off. 9 out of 10, and especially in this economy,
Mm-hmm.
you're underemployed, underpaid, man
Mm-hmm.
probably working 2 jobs.
Right.
These are the things I think was running through his head. You know,
Right.
Right.
and that's where the anger came out. It's like that's the least that I can have. The
He's
least
being robbed of his basic right.
just to be able to survive.
Right.
To be able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And his wife, women are very strong. Black women are very strong, and so strong that we're breaking down because we've been strong for so long. And I
Mm-hmm.
know as a wife, she's sitting there and she's not going to add fuel to the fire. We're smart women.
Mm-hmm.
She knew what was going down. You understand? But she's not going to
Mm-hmm.
put any more stress on her husband at that point, knowing that he's stressed out, than she has.
Right.
That's how we think. So she kind of kept it moving,
Mm-hmm.
the best she could. So, it's really heavy, Dean. It's very heavy.
Right.
Mm-mm.
All right.
Michelle, you had something?
No, I'm just thinking about the second question here. Um, his manner was like all the powerless black people I'd ever known, exaggerating their bodies to conceal a fundamental plunder that they could not prevent. What do you believe Coates meant by this statement? Um, well, certainly he was talking about the way the whole mortgage industry uh, had been geared
Right.
to set black people up in housing situations that they really could not afford, so that sooner or later
He would default.
they would lose their home, they would lose their house. Um, that that was the design of the system. Um, and so that's the fundamental plunder that they could not prevent. And a part of the reason that they could not prevent it was because they didn't know about it.
That's it.
You know, Venita, Venita has heard me say on many occasions in our other reading group that those were naive times, you know. Um, Naive not because the people were stupid, um, but because we just really did not have access to the information that we needed to understand the tactics that were being used against us.
Right.
You know, there hadn't been all of the exposés and widespread economic crises, and we didn't know how deep was the rabbit hole.
Right.
And so certainly in the period that Coates is looking at, I think that was a big part of the problem. That's why you couldn't prevent, you couldn't prevent this theft. The other part of it, I think is something you said previously, Dean, about when we were talking about education and how we don't. I remember you saying something about they don't teach us about tax law, but we don't come with a history of home ownership and knowledge that is just passed on to our children as a part of their birthright. And so, when we go into those markets, we're babes in the woods, bound to be taken advantage of by wolves.
Right.
So his manner was like all the powerless black people I'd ever known. To me is that kind of innocence. Like you don't even know what's being done to you.
First off, let me say nobody has to be stupid to run into big government corruption.
Yeah.
Big government conspiracy. That doesn't require you to be dumb. That requires them to be evil.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take away anything on our part to be the victim of a big government conspiracy. Like they set that up intentionally to move pieces on the chessboard around in their favor. And we just didn't.
And they're still doing it. When you look at the patterns of gentrification that are going on now, those are planned decisions that are being facilitated.
Right. Masterfully being facilitated. And we don't have anybody on our side that really tells us the moves that are being made so we can really get ourselves out from underneath of it. Like we may see that it's big gentrification, but then you need a plan. You need a plan to do something about it. And you need resources. You need banks and people on your side to really change that type of system. And that's not always the easiest to come about. And it leaves us feeling ashamed. It's like the system is set up to make us doubt ourselves. Even though there is a conspiracy behind us. It comes off like
Venita used to be in real estate. Let's hear what
it comes off like a cliche when people say that they're out to get me. But if they're really out to get you, is it really your fault?
Right. Well, remember when Coates said, something about racism can just as easily cause delusion as it can, nobleness.
Right.
Yeah, you doubt yourself. You don't even know.
You doubt yourself, and then you end up feeling, blameful, blaming yourself for a system designed to do just that. Yeah. So it's nefariously set up that no one else. That it's like you're chasing ghosts to try to figure out what to do about it. That is a masterful setup.
Well, as Dean Goldson would say, Venita, what you got?
What you got?
Well, I was in the real estate business for about 12 years, so I've
Hmm.
seen it all. And no, you cannot protect yourself from a game if you don't know what the game is.
Right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, for a long time, it was blamed on all the poor people that had, that their homes were underwater, and that, no, 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 no. A lot of folks blamed it on the bank or blamed it on the individual. No, 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 no. The bank was part to blame. Part was individual. Realtors,
Hmm.
mortgage brokers. It was a
Hmm.
whole fleet of people that was involved
Hmm.
in the things that happened. Um, and the majority of the folks that bought the banks down, I should say, with all the underwater mortgages, were not the poor whites or poor blacks or poor period. It was the middle class educated white folks.
Hmm.
See, we were looking for homes out of need. They were looking for homes out of greed.
Hmm.
Most of them were second and third time home buyers. They were very versed about home buying, middle class white folks that I should say.
Hmm.
They wanted bigger. Then when the values went up a ridiculous amount, I mean, it was just like, common sense would dictate to most folks that the home's property value does not double in 3 months. Nothing doubles in 3 months in life, period,
Hmm.
except grief. That will
Yeah.
double in 3 months. So when you had a home that went from $300,000 and suddenly it's worth $700,000, well,
Hmm.
those same people that were doing it out of greed said, well, okay, I have all this equity, John. So now I'll go out and I'll take the equity out and I'll buy the big BMW 7 Series. I'll buy the boat and the summer home. And then suddenly the market crashed.
Hmm.
So, a lot of folks were victims. And I would say especially poor people. And what I mean by poor, that was anyone that was poor.
Hmm.
Whether they were black or white, I can say they were victimized because it was so complicated. And when you're doing something out of need and you're not educated about what you're doing on top of that, what happens?
You're gonna
You
make a lot of
harm
mistakes.
people that's in front of you to do the right thing for you.
And so, Benita, you're talking about, you know,
Is
the
that a housing
economic
bubble?
crises of our modern era of
Yeah,
this century.
yes,
Um, but Coates is talking about what was going on like in the 50s and 60s.
it's
Well,
similar. Nothing has changed. The same thing that was going on in the 80s and then the 90s when we had our deep recessions was going on in the 40s and the 50s.
Hmm.
You were buying paper that was already read. You really didn't own your home then.
Hmm.
And they knew you would never own your home.
Hmm.
That was the plan. The plan was to give you exorbitant interest rates, charge more money than they would charge, I would say, a Caucasian person. Then they had clauses in the real estate contract where actually, you never owned that home.
Really?
And because the interest rates were so exorbitant back then, you're looking at interest rates at one point that was 21, 22, and 23%.
Hmm. They would balloon your interest rates?
Balloon your interest rates,
Hmm.
the instruments that you had in front of you, then black folk didn't know about or didn't have access to legal um, uh, representation, where you would get a lawyer and you sit down and they would go through everything with you. So all these
Hmm.
little things were missed for them. So all of a sudden they would call that note out of nowhere. And of course you don't have. I said the average home might have been good house $3,000 to $7,000. That was a good house
Hmm.
in the city. And they would call that note, you didn't have the money. They would come and foreclose on your property, set you out in the street, turn around and resell that property to the next person. And you had
Ain't
no
that-
way of knowing that. And that
Wow.
actually, history repeats itself. It just looked prettier in the 80s and the 90s. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
I mean, our country has a way of prettying everything up anyway. So they just made it look prettier. So I can't really fault the banks. Banks are opportunists. They're there. They're big business. They're there to turn a profit. If they can only turn that profit on you for 3 years at an interest rate that's more exorbitant than the average interest rate, think about it. If the average interest rate is 6% and they're getting 14 from you,
right.
Well, even if you can only pay it for 3 years, if a person is paying 6%, that's what? 8 years, 7 years worth of time, money they actually collected because your interest rate is that much, higher than the rest. So it's a lot of tricks to the trade. And unfortunately, in black families, we even today.
We don't know those tricks.
Well, it's not the point of know the tricks, but finances is something that a lot of black families that I've run into don't teach their children about finances because they don't know about finances.
Right.
Which is not a huge excuse today because we have a lot of resources. You know what I'm saying? When I built my home, I didn't have the internet. There was a stack of papers that high from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have the internet. You have seminars that you can attend, pre-home buyer seminars.
Mm-hmm.
You have access to legal counsel too. So there's a lot of things going on, but it is important. And you, Dean, as a father, of a young child, need to educate yourself. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Right.
So that you can teach your son, starting now, how to manage his money, how to manage his finances, how to invest properly. Because it's very important. It really is. For our long-term wealth.
Right.
It's important. I'm sorry I was long-winded.
Oh, you're good. We'll just go into the next question.
Okay. Michelle, would you like to read that?
Yeah. Dean, Venita's the moderator tonight. Dean is like...
No, Dean, let Dean just go ahead and
read it.
No.
Go on. Next question.
Right. The mortgage industry as a whole have in the past and still do steer black people to predominantly black and or poor areas with low property values compared to white areas. The practice of steering is illegal in the United States. During Coates' travel through the city, he would sometimes visit the homes of black people that lived there. He admired their humble homes, hard work ethics, and their tenacity. Still he knew that he was only encountering those that had survived the banks and the realtors. The whole time, he was thinking to himself, I'm sorry that house just sold yesterday. He knew these people had survived the realtors' attempts to steer them back toward ghetto blocks. Presently, many cities throughout the United States are transforming through gentrification. Wealthier individuals, whites, are buying and renovating houses and businesses that have deteriorated in urban areas. Property values go up, and displacement of poor go up. Do you believe this practice is another form of steering? What do you think about steering? What do you think that the effect of steering has on black people's long-term wealth? I think it guarantees that we'll never make it. It's a nefarious guarantee that we'll never make it if they continue to steer us. I think we should fight back. If it's supposedly illegal, we should kind of use we should maybe call them out on it. Maybe if it's supposed to be illegal to steer people to create ghettos in the United States, I don't really see anybody raising lawsuits, or fighting back from that kind of practice. Every time they do something against us, we need to be ready to fight back against it. I mean, you have to recognize all kinds of things that happen if you want to have any chance of combating it, I think. Or don't allow yourself to be steered. I know that's easier said than done. But
well, if I may intervene, first of all, you have to know what steering is,
right,
in order to be able to identify it when it's being done to you. Yeah. And steering is very subtle. Okay, and a lot of folks, no matter who you are, Black, white, green, or poor, first of all, doesn't know what steering is and don't know how to identify it when they see it because it's just that subtle. It happened to me almost 30 years ago. I told a realtor specifically where the demographic area where I want to live. But for some ungodly reason, she thought it would be better if she takes me where she saw fit that I should live. I was trying to find a piece of land to build a home. She took me to I don't even know what it was. It wasn't land she showed me. She wasn't listening. Well, she was listening to me, but she was determined she was going to steer me to where she wanted me to be. She took me to these homes that were already existing homes, and they didn't even look like homes. They looked like something that you would see in the backwoods of Alabama.
Really?
Yes. They were actually looked like shacks.
Shacks.
You heard what I said? Shacks. Okay, now this is a person telling you they want to build a home. This is a person that has 20% down to put on the land and or buy the land out before I built the home, and you take me to a community of shacks. So I'm standing there, and I looked at her. I said, "Excuse me, where are we? What are we doing here? Where are we?" She said, "Well, I thought that this would probably be a place that is affordable for you. You don't even know how much money I have because pre-qualification wasn't required back then, or a contract for a realtor to take you out. So we didn't even talk about. I haven't talked about how much money I have. I told you where I wanted to be, and I gave her a demographic area. So I told her that what she was doing was illegal because I knew what steering was. I had read many books. We didn't have the internet then. I read a lot of books before I even started to go out to look for, to thought about building a home. And I told her it's against the law. And what she was doing was called steering. Okay, I didn't ask you to take me to the poorest area there is in this part of the city, and I don't even want to live here. I'm telling you I want to move in southern part of Connecticut, and you got me up north, number one. But I let her go ahead and just kill herself. I did file a complaint with the Board of Realtors. I filed a formal complaint with the Board of Realtors. And of course, I got rid of her. But I did let her know that I knew what she was doing. I got in touch with her broker, and I got in touch with the Department of Consumer Protection, which governs the license of realtors. And I did file a formal lawsuit. But once again, we have to educate ourselves. If you have information that you can tell another person that you may know that's building a home, try to pass the information on, because you can't fight against something that you don't understand what it is.
True.
And that happens a lot. So we are fighting back, Dean. There are many folks out there today that's fighting back, that don't mind filing lawsuits or formal complaints. But once again, a lot of us do not know what steering is, and the ones that we do know are still, it's hard to identify. Because sometimes
would you like to give us a definition, Venita?
Steering is when a realtor takes you to a certain area where you are a particular color or nationality, and sometimes even religion, exclusively for you to buy a home or purchase a home. That's what steering is.
So your question is, do we think that gentrification is another form of steering?
Yes.
What do you think?
I believe it is.
Yeah. I say yeah.
I believe it is another form of steering. You are steering the more wealthy folks
Towards themselves.
Predominantly Caucasian, wealthy area, and you're steering black folks against their will, with no choice, into poor areas. Because remember, gentrification, when they're in the process, they double those rents. Either they are rents, triple those rents. They do whatever they want to do. So you are going against your will when they're displacing you. And when they're displacing you, at the same time, I know that they probably have a little thing going on where this is the few apartments that are available to you, and they're steering you 9 times out of 10 to poor areas, which is the only place you can go. So I do believe gentrification is another form of stealing. And it's blatant. It's not even like
there's a film I saw a few years ago. It's called My Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And Brooklyn, of course, has been the subject of a great deal of gentrification, as well as other parts of New York, like Harlem. But this particular film looked at the whole history of how neighborhoods in Brooklyn had changed. But more importantly, it looked at the kinds of incentives that banks were giving to people, and tax breaks that the government was giving to people, to white people, to move into a particular neighborhood. So on the one hand, as you're saying, Venita, the rents go up dramatically for the existing black population. But then on the other hand, all of these gifts are lavished upon white people to encourage them to go to a particular area.
Good point. You're 100% correct. And they're doing the same thing in the city of Philadelphia, which I visit quite often. I grew up there. And they're doing the same exact thing. They're getting tremendous tax breaks. They have all these little hidden programs for them. And these are folks that can well afford to be there anyway.
Right.
That's the sad part about it. They literally can be there anyway without any of these breaks, without the incentive. They got the money. Okay? But by the time they get done, they buy those houses that have one little desolate in the urban areas. For pennies on a dollar.
Or offer companies, tax-free existence for the next 20 years.
Look, I'm telling you, I mean, if you look into these programs, they are just tremendous. The money that they're given to do these things. And that's why if you walk in these areas, everyone's walking around looking happy. Now you're coming home because you have all these professional people move in this area that was worth $7,000 because it was desolate. Now it's worth $1.3 million.
Right.
And guess what? It's worth $1.3 million, and you spent $10,000.
Right.
So the wealthy, the have even more, and that's what's amazing about it. Is
that's why they're happy.
That's why they're happy. The little clubs out here, and everybody walking around, and everything is beautiful in the neighborhood, and people jogging down the street. And just 2 years ago, you couldn't walk down the street unless you had an AKA.
All right, we got to move on. We got to move forward.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
Got to move on.
Dean?
Yes?
Dean, are you keeping the time?
Yeah, but we got to keep moving.
But I'm the moderator, Dean. I am the moderator today, Dean.
You are.
Yes, I am, Dean. Yes. So
you're going to have to fight for it today, Venita.
I'm telling you, Dean is telling me to move on here, Dean.
We all know about big government corruption.
Well, everything is not big government corruption. Some of
it's little government corruption too.
Some of it is on the state and local levels.
Right.
Okay, where most of it is when you're dealing with gentrification in the city. It's not the federal government. It's the state and local government.
Right.
Okay. So, since you want to move on, we'll move on now.
They just don't want to run out of time.
No, that time is 1:42. We're on question number 3. I intentionally didn't write too many questions, so we do have enough time. But we will move on, okay? I'll read the next one.
All right.
More than likely, Coates' son will probably grow up and join the ranks of the privileged blacks. However, it will not guarantee that he will not end up murdered like Prince Jones. I don't want to raise you to fear or false memory. I do not want to force you to mask your joy and blind your eyes. What I want for you is to grow into consciousness. First question, what do you think Coates meant by this statement? The second question, what have you or will you tell your black sons? Why don't you take that one, Dean?
He's saying that no matter how well you grow up, you still have to face the reality that you are black. I mean, he doesn't want his son to end up murdered. He's saying Prince Jones was like the best of them. Prince Jones was the best of them. His mother was a doctor, and he was doing everything right and staying out of trouble. And still, for some unforgivable reason, he still ended up dead. You know, he's saying it's almost an uphill battle. Like, even when you're doing the right thing, you're still a victim. You're still a target. And that's a hard reality. Like, you don't want to raise your child in fear that something bad is going to happen to them, but you have to raise them with the information of how the world is going to view them so that they can be prepared for all situations. You know? It's like I don't want to raise my child with fear in his eyes, but he does need to be raised aware. And that's the shade that we live with. That's the issues that we live with. Like, he wants him to be like conscious that the world may have some love for him, but it will also have some hate for him. And he doesn't want him to walk blindly into situations that will hurt him. You know, stuff like that. And what would I tell my son? I'll tell him that even if the world's going to be vicious, it's not a reason for it to turn his light off or to blow out his shine, the spark inside of him that makes him the person that he is. You know, don't let the fact that the world is against you or some people are against you change you. Don't let that bring you down so that the one life that you have will be lived under a dim light, you know. But I also try to prepare him for the people who may be against him, so that he knows what to do when he gets into those situations. It'll increase his chances of survival if he's armed with some type of information versus being let out there blindly. You know, teach him places not to go, things that he should not do in certain situations, proper manners, so that no one can just say they thought he had something. So, you know, I'll teach him how to survive. What you got, Venita?
He wants him to grow into consciousness. He wants him to be aware of his surroundings, to be aware of who he is, to be aware of what he stands for, and to be aware that he is a black man. So he'll be able to navigate himself through life. Because Coach is trying to let him know that it is going to be a challenge. He still wants him to be joyous. He doesn't want him to walk around with fear, but he just wants him to be conscious of what's going on. And how do we do that? Through educating ourselves. Living in the truth, which is sometimes what some of us have a hard time doing. I'm sure I've even been at some point in my life guilty of that. But that's what he wants for his son. He wants love and happiness. He wants him to have a fabulous life, because he will rejoin the ranks of the privileged blacks. But he doesn't want him to be aware that just like Prince Jones, that educated black man that was a law-abiding, God-fearing citizen, did not save him from being killed.
Right.
You have to be aware. Shell?
Well, I agree with both of you. Um, when I read that line, I did not want you forced to mask your joys and blind your eyes. The masking your joys makes me think about two things. Um, one if you're too happy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you're too smart, you know, that often draws um, negative reactions from people who don't think you have a right to that joy. I'm certainly thinking about my own experiences, but what comes to mind right now is that the group of black women that were on the train going through wine country somewhere,
Yes.
and were you know, I don't know, put off the train or whatever for laughing too loud, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So on the one hand, you're subject to draw the reaction of you an uppity Negro, you know,
Yeah.
from white folks if you look too joyful,
Right.
what you got to smile about, you
The
know.
crime.
But but you also are likely to draw some jealousy
Yes.
from from other black folks that feel like what you got to smile about,
There you go.
Hmm.
so you can fall into masking your joy when you allow yourself to be too identified with what other people think of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the piece about blinding your eyes, I can also see from different perspectives. But one of them is, blinding your eyes to the oppression
Mm-hmm.
that's targeted toward black people and people of color, um, but also blinding your eyes um, to your own strength, your own potential. So I think for me as a parent, it was important for me to try to teach my black son um, that he comes from a culture. He comes from a people with a proud history, an ancient history, um, and that while we are in this historical moment, um, where we have all of these issues, these problems. Um, we have to have enough confidence in ourselves, enough self-esteem to not over-identify with what others may think of us or project onto us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's always all this projection going on. Right now we're in a 24-hour news cycle, on the situation in Paris,
Yeah.
and I watch. I have one of my friends um, is from Paris, so that's probably why the story really kind of caught my eye. But I was watching it all evening yesterday, and of course they didn't know, no one had claimed responsibility for the attack. Um, and so today, apparently, ISIL um, claimed responsibility, and so you start to hear some mention of Syria. But what you don't hear is how the United States and France
Involved.
are bombing the hell out of Syria.
Right.
Yep.
What you hear are those barbarians.
Of course, propaganda.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, and you hear it over and over and over
You
again.
take it as fact.
Uh,
You take that as the only story, and it's a fact.
and you take that as the only story.
That's how propaganda works.
Right.
Well,
And
Propaganda
so
is a
that's what
one-sided
was
narrative.
important for me, as a mother to help you figure out fact from fiction. Because there's a whole lot of fiction going
a lot of
on.
fallacy.
Oh, I know. And anytime somebody builds a propaganda against someone else, chances are that they have a hand in it. They have a hand in some damning information themselves. That's why I never believe a propaganda what the news says, because it's a slanted viewpoint.
Well,
It's a very slanted viewpoint.
well, you should understand that being a black man, Dean.
Right.
Look at the news. The only thing we do is run around killing folks, backing it up, bitch. 4 or 5 kids running around hungry. We can't.
Right. Or look at the Mizzou situation. Black folks went on strike. They weren't happy about something. They went on strike. The football team went on
The whole
strike.
football team.
You know what you're supposed to do?
That's what you're supposed to do.
No.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Meanwhile, now these folk are running around, threatening to kill people.
Yes.
Right.
Because what? You were successful?
Yes.
Mm.
It's the same way with the old cliche that I hear quite often from folks. Why are black people so angry?
They always say that. Why are black people so
I don't understand. Things have gotten better. Aren't things better, Venita? And why are they so angry?
Because what is better?
Well, the point is, and once again, here we go. Folks are in some fantasy world, and everyone is in their own little world. And they're pretty much they really can't understand what's going on.
Like the issues right.
The Iraqi war. Now, a lot of folks will believe that, as the United States want to have them believe, that we went over there to liberate the people.
No.
First of all, the people didn't ask to be liberated.
No.
Their beliefs are their beliefs, number one. They did not call the United States and say, please come liberate us, because we need you like this. They didn't put emphasis on why they're really there, like,
we want your stuff.
We want your stuff.
Right.
That top 1% wants to control that oil because we have a lot of money invested in that oil. And Saddam Hussein, listen, we gave you the weapons to do what you wanted to do. But when we gave those weapons, we told you that we were in control. Now all of a sudden you're going to tell me, Saddam, that you're going to do what you want to do?
Another big reason to go over there?
The United States said hell to the no.
Right.
And they choked the air out of him. But what most of the country doesn't realize is that we gave him what he needed to do what he did. They don't talk about that. So it's the same way with France. It's the same way. And the story on France, I'm really amazed anyway about France because why is it such a shocker? It's happening all over the place. Why is it? Because it's France? And all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, really?
Right, because they really expect they can beat up on folk and they will never fight back. They will never hit back.
There you go.
And another big reason to go over there would be poppy seeds.
It's 8 o'clock.
For opiates. You get a lot of opiates from Asia. Not just oil. You know, that's another big reason to go over there is for drugs.
Well, we know that too. It's all about the dollar bill. Big business, a
Right.
dollar bill. But Dina, as you said, I think we should move on because we do have a few more questions.
All right.
Where were we now? Let's see here.
Number 4.
Question 4.
We'll have maybe we can ask Michelle to read question number 4.
All right.
Okay. Coates encourages his son to study his surroundings, to question what he sees, then to question what he sees after that. He believes the questions matter as much or maybe more than the answers. A. Did your parents or someone else close to you encourage you to study your surroundings and ask questions? Have you or will you encourage your children, grandchildren, or any child to study their surroundings and ask questions? I'm not good at this.
At what?
At being observant about my surroundings, and I'm thinking of it, in a physical sense, like walking down the street and noticing whether there may be some danger lurking nearby. I'm not good at that, so I don't believe that I taught it
To me.
to my son.
Uh-uh.
Did I?
No. But the military has taught me how to be cognizant of my surroundings. You know, they're always telling you that if you see some kind of sign of terror, or if you see something is not right, or if something looks out of place, then you should take appropriate steps to handle that situation. You know, they kind of gave me some of the groundwork for that.
You say that, and it makes me think about the other story recently in the news that Venita and I have been talking about a lot, which was the young girl the teenager at Spring Valley High in Columbia, South Carolina, and her school teacher who was a black man. I think he's the one that called for the police to come. But anyway, she's the one that the cop grabbed her out of her desk chair and swung her across the floor. I think I was telling you about it last time, Dean. But anyway, the other sort of interesting angle on that story is what could have possibly been going on in that teacher's head that would allow him to stand idly by.
Fear. He was fearful. If he would do that to a little girl, instead of talking to her, then he would be dead in seconds. Probably the fear of the powerlessness that Coates is always talking about that exists in the black community. No matter who you think you are, you could be the president of the United States, you'll still get shot in the head. You know? No matter how far you raise up that ladder, no matter how good you think you are, you'll still get shot down and forgotten about. You know, it's that simple. And he's thinking and he's also thinking probably about the fact that cop will get away with his murder. Because everybody knows black people always have guns, even teachers in school. And they'll never find the weapon, and they'll still go easy on the cop. Because cops are judge, jury, and executioner to black people.
Well, I you've always been the manly man type. You know, you got your girly man, you got your manly man, and you've always been the manly man type, and you know, very protective of me. I can recall you stepping in to defend me against, you know, some of your uncles. And now, you know, given your military training, can you picture that you would have stood by and let that child be flung across the room?
It's difficult. You know, you want everybody to walk away from a situation alive. You know, you don't want anybody to pay the ultimate price because somebody couldn't take a defeat. You know, you want to do what's right and defend people, but then you get into the say I did so. Say I defended her and I was right with my conscience. And say somehow I didn't get shot. So let's imagine in a world that I didn't get shot in that scenario. Now I'm in the courtroom, and it's my word against this defender of justice with this legacy of hatred against black people. You know, with the country with a legacy of hatred. And now I'm going away forever when if I was a white man and I did the same thing, I probably would have got a slap on the wrist. You know?
Or been hailed as a hero.
Or been hailed as a hero. Defender of the unfortunate poor. Defender of the poor. Robin Hood. You know?
If I may say something, Dean, I'm going to put a little spin on this right quick.
Okay.
There's a thing called right, and there's a thing called wrong. I'm not a gray area person, and maybe that'd be the downfall of me. I don't see any middle road to that.
The world is full of gray areas.
Let's put a spin on this. Suppose that had been your son or your daughter, and someone, which is question 7 actually, flipped him backwards in a chair, risk breaking his neck, give him a concussion, even death if hitting their head the wrong way, drags him out of that chair, takes him and flings him across the room like a rag doll, and they just stood there. Why don't we just bring it on home?
I don't want anybody to
feel. How would you feel about the adult in that room that allowed your son to not only be treated that way, but there was a risk of severe injury and death? How would you feel? Would you
feel horrible?
I want to know, 1 second, what you might say in your head, well, you know what? I can understand it. Because if that person that stepped up and decided to defend my child, that literally got their neck broke, then they could have succumbed to a bullet from a cop. So I can understand why they did not prevent, I'm just asking you a question, my son from physical injury and or death, not much left if they live, the psychological effects that they will carry, he will carry with him for the rest of his life. Now, put yourself in that scenario and tell me how you feel. I want to know, honestly, how you feel about that.
If somebody put their hands on my child, I would have to fight.
No, I gave you a scenario. I want to know how understanding you would be to the adult person, teacher, that called the police to come in and remove him from the room, and he did that to your child while this teacher stood there passively and watched.
I would be outraged.
Okay.
I would be angry.
Okay, I'm just wondering, would you give him a pass? Would you be understanding about why he didn't do anything?
No.
Why he called? Okay.
You know what?
Okay. Just wondering.
Partially. I would be, it would be a mixed response. Look, partially, because I know the system is out to get us. Part of me would understand, but I would still be angry that my child was put in that situation and hurt. Because actually, the cop is the one that I should be angry at. He threw my child out of the chair. That is not professional. He's trained to be professional, and his job is supposed to be about professionality. It is not a teacher's job to get shot defending someone. So I would kind of understand that his role is to teach, not to take bullets and not to hurt cops.
But not to protect.
But I would be angry at the system.
Not to protect the child, and not to protect. His job is not to protect that child. That you, as a parent,
look. His job is to protect the child.
Listen,
but
the scenario.
One at a time.
The scenario is not his job as a teacher to protect your child.
It is.
Did you leave in the care of him, which is a part of that educational system, for so many hours a day? But it's not his responsibility.
It is his job to protect your child.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that it's not.
You just told me it's not a teacher's job. That's not what you said.
But I'm also saying that the cop has to be more of the focus of the anger. Because, look, where did that cop come from? That cop was supposed to be a servant of the people.
Why was he called? Why was the cop called? That's my question.
The cop may have been called for a disciplinary action or whatever. I don't know.
Why is a resource, and the key word is resource, and the reason why they say resource, because this policeman that's put in the school, and all the school systems across the country now, they call them resource officers. The key word is resource. Not beat down, not throw across the room, not chokehold, not knock out the back of a chair. They're called resource officers. This young lady, which you probably missed that part, was unarmed. She was not threatening any other student in the class. She was not running around with a machete or a magnum.
What happened if the cops were called?
Well, let me interject for a minute, and because I didn't want to get y'all all off on the course. But let me interject and say, back on the question of what you thought it was important to teach your son, and I was talking about culture and history, and the point of that to me was that I believe that it is very important that we consciously make an effort to love ourselves as Black people, because there is so much messaging out there that tells us we're not worthy of love. And that's the lie. And that we have to fight that lie. Because until we can fight that lie and love ourselves, we can't have the kind of unity that we're always talking about we need. And so one of the problems that I hear in what Dean is saying is that, if someone stood up to the cop, and actually there was a young Black girl who did, but you can say it's less likely that she would have been shot than the Black male teacher. Okay, but if the Black man had stood up for this young girl and had ended up in court, as you say, Dean, because we're imagining that he did not get shot. Then the next problem would be, for the most part, the Black community would not be there to support that man.
Right.
In the early 80s, before you were even born, Dean, and in the 70s, there were a lot of big political trials going on. And one of them, Venita, is who came up in our reading on Alice Walker. Oh God, why can't Mumia? Abu Jamal. But anyway, there were a lot of cases like that of people that had stood up to the system in some way and were now being railroaded by the system
Right.
in these fake trials.
Yeah, because
But there was a great deal of community support for them, rallies, marches, visits to the prison, care, love, concern.
Right.
Um, but we're not there anymore,
no.
and so if you are the brave heart who decides to stand up
Right.
on the basis of principle, which I believe in, you have to do it
Alone.
knowing that there's a good likelihood you're on your own.
You are on your own, Michelle.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And that's okay.
I would love to stand up against the system and fight the power on my own, but I don't. But his
But
word
this is
against
why
mine.
this
I'm
is
going
why
away from
Ta-Nehisi this
the
is why
light.
Ta-Nehisi is talking about
Right.
he doesn't want his son to blind
Right.
his eyes.
Right.
Because if you blind your eyes to what's going on, you also don't feel any affinity or connection to people who look like you. And in a healthy world, it wouldn't matter what people look like. It wouldn't matter what amount of melanin you have in your skin. We are all underneath just human beings. We know that. But we're not in a healthy world. We're in an insane world. And so if you can't find your peeps, then you don't have
a voice.
You don't have the strength. You don't have the power. You don't have the real capacity to stand up and protect yourself. And going right back to the beginning of this, your questions, Venita, about how did the man, that was being put out of his house feel?
Wow.
He felt alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But I also realized that because the world is very different than it used to be, that sometimes when you really feel strongly about a situation, that you have to accept the fact that you may be standing alone, which I have done, and I have no problems doing it. Whether that be any child, I personally would have had to stand alone and deal with whatever repercussions, because when I decide to do something, I already know that there might be repercussions, and I would have had to do that, no matter what child. It happened to be a black little girl. It could have been a white little girl, Asian little girl, a Muslim, or Jewish little girl. It wouldn't have made a difference. A boy, I would have had to stand up.
Well, that's why we say we wouldn't have survived slavery.
Well, we know that, Michelle.
We would have went down.
Michelle. We ain't gonna get into that, Dean, because we know we would have not made it.
We wouldn't have made it into teenagehood.
No. That's why we were born the time we were, because we could not have made it. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, we have one more question that I'd really like to get to.
All right.
We won't be able to get to them all. We did answer question number 7. We talked about that just now, which was the last question. But there's one that I really would like us to get to. Dean?
Yes?
As a matter of fact, I'll read that one. And
All right.
I'd like you to respond if possible, okay?
Okay.
Too often, we turn on the news and hear of another child's body being plundered by parents, police, or whoever feels it's fine to do so. Coates continues his conversation with his son. I am wounded. I am marked by old codes, which shielded me in one world and then chained me to the next. He recalls the conversation with his grandmother, noting how tall his son was growing and will one day try to test him. And I said to her, that I would regard that day, should it come, as a total failure of fatherhood, because if all I had over you were my hands, then I really had nothing at all. Do you believe that black folks are marked by the old codes when disciplining our children? How do you feel about physical punishment as a form of discipline?
That old line, better the belt than the police, is somewhat true. I do believe in spankings, but not to the point where it becomes an abuse. Do I have like a back? Do I have like a reverb or?
Yeah, there's something going on with your sound
Uh,
or my sound. But
I do believe in spankings, even though the Germans don't over here, so it's really a taboo thing. I believe kids need to be steered gently into the direction that they're supposed to be going to make the proper decisions for future moves. You know, do I believe that we're marked by old code? Yes. Of course we are. When you come from where we come from, how can you not be? Well, my son's generation is not going to be the same generation like mine, or either of yours. He doesn't have to be marked by old code. He's over here. He has the chance to break ranks, break tradition. I still have to teach him how the world works, and he's still a black man, but I don't have to mark him by. I don't have to treat him the same way that I was raised in my environment. You know? So I have to go about raising him in a way that's different than the way that I was raised. I have to kind of make his experiences better than what I got. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I prefer not to. All kids need discipline, but I would prefer not to strike him, if at all possible. I mean, just because I believe in spankings doesn't I believe that that's necessarily the best way to go about it. A punishment. The best punishment should be more psychological than physical. Not to hurt him, but to remind him of the things that he has to do to survive. You know, I don't want to scar him mentally, because I remember every spanking I've gotten throughout my life. Not every last single one of them, but I definitely have some memories, some strong memories that come back every once in a while. It's left quite the mark.
That's the intent.
that's right.
I think that there's better ways to go about raising somebody than physical, than really hitting them. You know,
Okay.
I think that you should let your kids figure out what the path is, and then be there to guide them in their decisions. You know, that might sound all new agey and whatever.
No.
No. But I believe kids need to be steered. They need to have room to make their mistakes. And they need to see. You need to go through them. You need to go through that with your kids and show them which path that they should have taken, in order to help them avoid going down a bad path again or doing things wrong. I don't think that that's the path that everybody believes in teaching people with, but I think it maybe should be. You know?
Thank you, Dean.
All right.
Can we do the love note part?
Yes,
Who wants to start?
you will.
So this is trying to identify aspects of love that you saw in the current reading. The one thing that just kind of flashed in my head was the whole piece. You know, Venita's been talking the last few days about the whole section in the book where he talks about um, falling in love with Paris. And, but that, you know, it was also,
Somebody has to take Avery.
it was also loving himself. Loving himself enough to allow himself to grow into an experience that was fearful to him, um, and then loving his son enough to wanting him to have um, that kind of exposure. Anybody else?
So, thank you for your thoughts. Dean, can I have your closing thoughts, please, if you have any?
Yeah, like my mom was saying about France. He was talking about how he enjoyed his time there, and really wanted his son to have a happiness like the French people he witnessed. He noticed that when he went to France, that nobody was under the specter of fear, as he had known his entire life, and he
Right.
kind of wanted that for his family, but he also didn't want his son to be naive in the fact that a lot of things that happened in France were built on the backs of black people as well. So he wants his son to stay educated, that no matter where you are, that the specter of danger, of victimization, can still fall upon you. So he wants them to be prepared with his new world, an increased world view, and a love for the world, while being aware that uh, danger is in places that you don't even see it. So he wants them to be ready, armed with information, conscious about the things that are happening
But
globally.
also open to the possibility
Right,
of difference.
right, and also, yeah, also the possibility of difference. And he wants them to enjoy his life, and don't let somebody don't let somebody dim your sunshine just because they don't like you or whatever.
Right.
That's not a reason. All right.
Thank you, Dean.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciated reading when I was reading his time he spent in Paris, um, sitting in the outdoor cafes and enjoying all the scenery. I'm sure it's absolutely beautiful. I've never had the pleasure of going to Paris, but since we've talked about it so much, I think that maybe me and Michelle need to put it on our bucket list of things to do before we leave here. But I did find it very interesting that because we're so many times paralyzed with fear, and he was, uh, which was apparent when he met his friend to practice his English, and his friend practice his French, and his friend wanted to practice English. That he thought that because he grew up in Baltimore, everybody wanted something. You always
Right.
try to protect your body from being plundered, whether it was at home,
Or abroad.
on the street, or anywhere else. That
Right.
just a person simply being kind, not expecting anything, he carried that fear with him so much that he still, in a whole different country, in a whole different setting, had
Right.
that fear with him, which caused him to miss out on the full experience of being in Paris.
Right.
So that's something that I think he was important. It was very important that he was trying to convey to his son. You don't want a fear to paralyze you. You want to live in consciousness, be aware of your surroundings, study your surroundings, but you still want to be able to be open enough to let new things in, new experiences. And yes, there are some folks out there, and I still have a belief that for the most part, many people want to do the right thing. There are good people out there. No matter what's around me, I know that there is. And you have to leave yourself still open to be able to bring in those good things. And that's how we learn. That's how we grow. So that's my final thought.
But I don't think that just because, well, sometimes there's people out there who want to do the right thing, and sometimes there are people out there who want to con you by making you think they want to do the right thing.
Well, that comes down to awareness.
I think that you need to be cognizant of who you're dealing with at all times, so that you can tell the difference in these people. So I don't think there's anything wrong with him bringing his Baltimore ways to a new area, as long as it doesn't paralyze him from people who are actually kind to him. Because there are hustlers in the world, and no matter where you go, you will find that there are hustlers everywhere.
Yeah.
So you have to bring a street smarts with you everywhere.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's very difficult to be open to new experiences when you know that there are hustlers everywhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult. And some people are naive and they count on that. They count on your naivety.
That's a nice segue for what I was sitting here thinking about, which is I'm back on the scene in the beginning of the man being put out on the street, and thinking about the love I felt from Ta-Nehisi in the compassion that he had for black people who had been plundered in this way. And I think along the lines of what Dean is saying about bad people being everywhere. Again, the more that we can be unified, the more that we can love each other, the more we can overcome some of these vulnerabilities. Like I'm thinking about, your real estate experience. But, we have people, the black community has people at this point that are skilled in everything.
That's right.
But we've got to care enough about each other to want to share that knowledge with each other, and to help protect us from some of these things that have been used to take advantage of us.
Right.
So, I'm also thinking about, I posted something recently. It's called The Nod. It was an article about the nod, and it's talking about that feeling that a black person, or the practice that black people have when they're anywhere in the world and they're surrounded predominantly by white people, but you see another black person in that environment and you're not. And that's this comfort level that we have. Thank God.
Thank God.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for your closing comments. And Dean, thank you very much for your closing comments. As usual, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully our last segment of our series is next week.
And thank you for your notes. They were quite interesting. Yeah, next Saturday is the last week. I plan to moderate that session. If you have any thoughts, think about whether or not you want us to do another book. And if you think you do, think about what book that might be. I personally would would have either one of you read James Baldwin's Fire Next Time?
No.
No.
I've read it, but a long, long time ago. It's an excellent book, and of course, it was um, one of the primary influences. It, Coates is writing to his son.
Right.
James Baldwin was writing to his nephew.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's similar in style and tone, except I would say even better.
Okay.
And a classic, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really love it if we would follow up Between the World and Me
With that.
with The Fire Next Time. But think about it, and we can talk about that next week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Right.
It's been a pleasure. I had a good time today. I really did, Dean. Thank you so much. That was very stimulating. I feel invigorated. I do. So, love and happiness. Peace out, Dean. Talk to you
All right.
soon, Michelle.
All right. See you
All right.
later.
Have a good
It's
night.
good to have you.
Ding.